In a 2012 Las
10
Vegas domestic violence case involving the teenage son of his longtime girlfriend. I'm Jane Metzler, Fox News Radio.
Coming up today on Speedway Line Report Radio, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut. Joining co-host Ricky Rotundo and myself will be Monty Dutton from MontyDutton.com. Also joining us will be from the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, driver Jimmy Zacharias. We'll also speak to Saturday night's winner at Langley Speedway in the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Tour, George Brunholzl III. And we'll talk to a driver who sat in victory lane Sunday afternoon at Waterford Speed Bowl, not once, not twice, 3 times, Keith Rocco. And we'll take your phone calls at 203-757-1320. Today is Monday, April 14th, 2014, and Speedway Line Report Radio is headed your way right now.
I'm hitting the button and nothing's happening.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
The green flag is in the air, and it's time for the Speedway Line Report, presented by Shaler Acura of Manchester, broadcasting from our WATR studios in Waterbury, Connecticut, and streaming live around the world. It's 90 minutes of auto racing news. Now, here's your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speedway Line Report Radio. I'm Gary Denko, right alongside my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication, as we get ready for another 90-minute show coming your way right here on WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming live at WATR.com, and you can also check us out by going to SpeedwayLineReport.com, where all of our shows are archived. This show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, J.M. Montesano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant, and the Auto Body Association of Connecticut. Your car, your choice. Well, Ricky, a wild weekend over at the Waterford Speed Bowl, Saturday and Sunday. A lot of great competition over there. A lot of cars piled in to the pit area there. A lot of good race cars throughout all of the divisions, and we're going to talk to a driver that, as I mentioned, that sat in victory lane not once, not twice, 3 times. Keith Rocco will join us coming up a little bit later on in the show. He won, as you well know, in the late model division, driving the Scott Fern-owned car. He also won in the SK Modified, and he also won in the Volante Modified Racing Series. Great weekend for Keith Rocco and all of those race teams.
Yeah, it was a good. You can't say enough about the kid, about what he's been doing and what he does, especially down at the Waterford Speed Bowl. He really came to his own at that racetrack there, and he set a record last year with the most wins at the racetrack in a year. And he started off this year basically not saying it out loud, but saying it with 3 wins on the first day, that I'm going to try to beat that this year. So, and I mean, a lot of people don't realize, because I guess a lot of people are bashing him a little bit here and there. When you're winning, people don't like you.
Absolutely. I mean, let's go back to the days of Jeff Bodine when he was winning at Stafford Motor Speedway and over at Thompson, even when he came into Riverside and winning week in and week out. You're right. Nobody likes a winner. I can remember going back some years, Teddy Christopher. Looking on the NASCAR Sprint Cup the deal, Jimmy Johnson. I mean, going back to last year. I mean, nobody likes a winner.
No, they don't mind it when you're winning in small doses, but when you win in big doses, the haters hate.
Exactly. No question. And of course, also joining us tonight is the YouTube man, Robert Baggett. Actually, Robert's going to be a guest on Speedway Line Report Radio next Monday night. A lot of people may be familiar with him and his work. Well, we're going to get down a little bit as he's going to talk to you and I, Ricky, about how he got started in auto racing and how he got to being the YouTube guy. So that will be coming your way next Monday night. Later on today, we're also going to talk to George Brunholzl III, the drive for 5 for a championship in on the NASCAR Southern Wheel Modified Tour, looking, a lot of victories and looking for that 5th championship, Rick.
Yeah, he's been running good. You can't say enough about the guy. He works hard, goes to the track all the time. He's always one of the competitive cars, and he does it smart, where he lays back, waits and waits and waits, and because that takes a lot of patience for drivers to be able to wait and not go all the way forward. And that's what George does, and he comes up and gets the lead and he keeps on going. I mean, you look at what Keith did this past week, and he led all 100 laps.
Right.
That was that's not an easy thing to do, because you got guys putting pressure on you, you're wearing out your stuff a little bit more. But he just saved just enough where he held off everybody, and like they said at the end of the race, he finished by almost a half a straight in 16 laps. Mm-hmm. He saved more than everybody else, and he was leading.
And we're going to talk to a young driver competing on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, Jimmy Zacharias. He's going to drive the Old Blue number 3 coming up next weekend at the Spring Sizzler. So we'll talk to him and find out a little bit more about him as well.
Yeah, it'll be good to see the 3 back at the track. Just for it's weird when you look out there and you don't see because it's been there forever. That 3 car's been out there a long time. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of drivers over the years have had a lot of success driving for the Bowler family.
Yeah, they got a bunch of championships with a lot of different guys.
Absolutely. We'll take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk to Monty Dutton from MontyDutton.com. We're back right after this.
To Shaler Acura and test drive the all-new redesigned RDX Sport Utility.
Everything coming out okay?
The size of your life. The all-new RDX reflects a new kind of luxury that values the resourceful. An engine that's powerful yet efficient. Technology that optimizes your time. A design that puts excellence ahead of excess. Come to Shaler Acura today and test drive this exciting all-new SUV. Or see it on the web at ShalerAcura.com. Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester. Exit 60 off I-84.
Jeff went into
Shaler
three
Acura
and four.
Manchester has a
He
long-standing
hit him
commitment
so
to
hard
quality
it
and
bent the
reliability.
front bumper and
It's
everything in
that
the back.
commitment that makes
He
finding
knocked Jeff's
certified
helmet down.
Acura
Jeff
from Shaler so
had to tilt his
satisfying.
head back.
Every
He
certified
crossed the
Acura from
finish line.
Shaler goes through a
And I'll tell you,
100-point inspection
like I
and
told you
comes
when
with
you
a
came in, we should have
7-year
had Jeff Rock on.
100,000-mile
He had a good run in the MRS
Save on your
race.
monthly payments with low finance rates. Nowhere else
That's
but
pretty
Shaler
good.
Acura.
He's really coming into his own, not only in the SK, but hopefully he can have some good MRS
Visit them on the
races
web
this year.
at
The ones that he's gonna run.
ShalerAcura.com. Shaler Acura, Manchester.
Opinions expressed on the Speedway Line Report do not necessarily reflect those of WATR management and staff, or the management and staff of the SpeedwayLineReport.com or VintageModifieds.com.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in our Waterbury studio at WATR 1320 AM, right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo. In just a moment, Monty Dutton will be joining us. And as you remember, last week we kind of ran out of time, Ricky, and wanted to spend a little bit more time with Monty, and we'll talk to him about what's going on in the NASCAR Sprint Cup. We'll also talk about the Camping World Truck Series with him, and we'll also talk about young Chase Elliott taking down the win in the Nationwide Series at Darlington. Of all places, Darlington, the track too tough to tame.
It's a tough track, and everybody says it, and it's not that it's a tough track it's to do the whole race at the track, because you got to be on that edge the whole time at that racetrack. I think it was Ward Burton they talked to some years back, and they says, "Where do you think the groove is?" He goes, 2 feet on the other side of the wall.
And I mean, you got look at Kyle Larson. He's doing double duty this year. He's running in a Nationwide Series, and he's running in the Cup Series as well, and doing very well.
Yeah, he's really coming into his own already. I mean, there's been a lot of times where it's the Kyle and Kyle show so far this year.
And actually, we're going to talk to Kyle Larson's crew chief in the Nationwide Series next Monday night. Scott Zipadelli is going to join us. Monty Dutton's all ready to go for week number 2. Monty, good evening. I'm doing very well. Appreciate your time tonight on Speedway Line Report Radio. Let's kick things off. Let's talk young Chase Elliott this past weekend at Darlington in the Nationwide Series. 7 races into the series, and he's already got 2 victories back-to-back.
Well, it's really impressive because it's not, to me, it's not as impressive how much skill he has. He has plenty, but what composure he has. I mean, regardless of what you think, what we know is that he's smart as a whip. Because in the late races of that, you know, immediately after the race was over, I had someone say, well, they just got out of his way and opened the door for him. Well, he took advantage of the fact that everybody was racing for the win and looking out for themselves, and he saw the openings that were there. And I think just being 18 years old and having the composure and to be able to handle that stress and think clearly in that situation is really sort of amazing. I mean, I think that I already knew that, I may have mentioned it on the show before, but about a month ago, Rick Minner of the former motorsports writer of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and I were talking, and I said, and we agreed, that of all the young drivers, that a lot of them might be stars, but that I thought that the ones that were can't miss were Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. And so I wish that I had like that on audio that I could prove I said it.
Right.
But I mean, I really was already, I've been impressed with him every time I've seen him. But regardless of all that, winning 2 in a row, and one of them being at Darlington, I'm not sure, but I heard today that the last rookie that won at Darlington was something like Jim Rathman in 1960. Now, obviously, that would have been a cup race, but it doesn't happen very often. And that also sounds like one of those facts that maybe if you know, I mean, I'm not sure how well it's been researched, but regardless, first of all, races at Darlington don't get won very often by drivers who aren't just, you know, masterful. I mean, and I'm not trying to say that Regan Smith is masterful, but I'm saying it was unusual for a guy like him to win at Darlington. In the whole history of the track, there's just a handful of people like that. Lake Speed won a spring race. They haven't. Larry Frank won the 1962 Southern 500, and there have been others. But look at the people who never won at Darlington: Lee Petty, Rusty Wallace, Tony Stewart. And Stewart, although, by the way, Tony Stewart has won a nationwide race. But it is unusual. The last time I saw kind of a non-cup driver do something in Darlington in a nationwide race that was that impressive was that back in the 90s, I was convinced Robert Presley was going to be a superstar based on watching him in the Busch Series races a couple of times when he outran Harry Gant and sort of out-tricked him a little bit. And so I was incredibly impressed.
And I'll tell you, they got to be ecstatic over at Junior Motorsports.
Well, I think that, well, I mean, they've got, well, you know, the fact of the matter is that you just look at it. Junior Motorsports is, you know, has Junior's name, but it's basically a wing, a part of Hendrick now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's just like basically the name that's attached to the Hendrick, you know, affiliate that runs in the nationwide series. But when you look at it, Rick Hendrick brought along Jeff Gordon in the 90s, Jimmy Johnson at the turn of the century, and it looks like that role is Chase Elliott right now. I also think that right after that race, there were a lot of people claiming that Elliott was going to get the Casey Kane ride. I don't know, but I have a hunch that it's the 24 he's going to get, because I don't know, but I mean, if a Gordon would win a championship, I don't think Gordon is going to be around much longer. Not because he isn't great and he can't do it, but because I just don't see Gordon lingering past his time. He has too many other interests, and I don't think Gordon is going to be the type of guy that, you know, owns a race team when he gets through. I expect that when Gordon is through driving the main time, that the people in NASCAR will see him when he has some kind of charity initiative or something along those lines. So Elliott is in the driver's seat in more ways than one.
Yeah, my father's a big Jeff Gordon fan, and I was talking to him the other night, and he said that Jeff said if he wins a championship this year, he's retiring. He says, I'll tell you right now, he goes, if I win the championship this year, he goes, I'm going to retire.
Oh, I haven't heard him say that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Monty, you know, we're talking about Chase Elliott and all the talent that he's got. We've seen that so far this year. What about Kyle Larson? Here's another driver, good talent. I mean, he's running great in the Nationwide Series and doing very well in the Cup Series.
He's sort of come. The two best ways to become stock car drivers, the two best preparations, without question, are to come up through the ranks in stock cars because you are driving them. But the best outside preparation has been open wheel, particularly non-winged sprints and midgets. And of course, there's Stewart and Gordon and Ryan Newman and innumerable others. And so they're sort of the different breeds of the cat right now. Larson has the open wheel background that has given the sport so many stars in the last 20 years, and Chase Elliott is NASCAR royalty, and he benefits. I really do think that he benefits a lot from the fact that his dad really did it the right way. There's some young drivers who are second-generation drivers, and they get pushed along too fast. And I think even though he's just 18, he's paid his dues, and his dad has supervised him and tried to do things the right way, and that shows too. Part of it is talent, and part of it is who his daddy is. But I think he's had a thorough and effective preparation, and I think that Larson, as I said, has come the other way. Larson, I think, is the one who is, I don't know, sort of the talent he has reaches out and grabs you a little bit. He's more potentially spectacular in the Kyle Busch mode. And I think that Chase Elliott is similar to his dad in some ways, but he is aggressive. And I think that what impresses me the most about him is there's a lot of competent, smooth young drivers. But there's also guys like that who you're amazed they don't win more. They're so good that you don't see why they don't win more often. And the guys who do win a lot have got a little edge of aggression in them. They've got a little meanness in them. And I think that, I've said this for years. Some people, anytime somebody touches them, they get all upset. I've always said that when you wreck a guy, that's an act of destruction. But if you nudge them a little bit, get them loose and get them out of your way, that's an act of great skill. And that's what Chase Elliott did to Elliott Sadler on the last lap down there at Darlington.
Right. Let's talk Kyle Larson in the Cup Series. Can he win in 2014?
Yes. I know that he will, but he can. Yeah. I think the biggest disadvantage you have there is that when it comes down, I think he's got skill to win. I think that inexperience can prevent him from himself. And then, I'm not saying he doesn't have a great pit crew, but when the race comes down to the end, there's track position. A good pit crew and a half second can give you track position when it comes down to those 6-7 laps together. Now, this past weekend at Darlington, amazingly, both races were won by guys who seemed to have lost it with pit strategy. And Harvey came storming back, and Chase Elliott. By the way, that's a good sign for the aging of the Darlington pavement and for the newest adjustments on the race cars, that could happen at the most narrow place in racing, Darlington, on the same weekend. That's a really good sign for the way the season is going and for the fact that the racing has been good. I mean, some of the fact that you have a string of great races is just sort of random, and that all evens out over time. But I do think as a general rule that the racing has been better, and I was really encouraged because that new pavement at Darlington really hurt the quality of the racing there for several years.
No, I was talking to one of my friends yesterday, and we were going back and forth about the tires this year. It seems like the tires that they made for this year, or I don't know if it's the car, that they wear out to where when you come down pit road, it's very difficult to just do 2 tires nowadays. It's like you got to do 4, and it's getting to the point where they're starting to run out of tires coming to the end of the race.
Well, tires do vary, and I think that, it tends to always bounce back and forth. Goodyear's criticized because they have tire failures, but the fact that the tires fall off make the racing better. And so sometimes they respond to this criticism. And also NASCAR has a role. NASCAR has a great advisory role in getting Goodyear to prepare the tires the way they want them. But it sort of tends to go back and forth where they get criticized, so the next thing you know, the tires are too hard, and then everybody says, well, you can't race on them. So that's been a trend that's gone back and forth the whole time I've been around racing. So I'm sure it's always true in NASCAR, almost any issue. It's not hard to find out what the ingredients are. What's hard is to figure out the relative importance of the ingredients. And I think that the new car is part of it, and the tires are part of it, and bright young drivers are part of it. But just like when you say, well, how come not the crowds are off? Well, there's a lot of reasons, the economy, and there's a whole lot. It's easy to figure out the factors. It's hard to assign value to them.
We're talking with Monty Dutton. Phone lines are open, 203-757-1320. We're streaming live at WATR.com, and you can also catch us at speedwayloungereport.com, where all of our shows are archived. I'm Gary Danko, right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo, back on with Monty Dutton. Let's talk Stewart Haas Racing. Kevin Harvick, first repeat winner in the Cup Series, but he's had a good car out of those 8 races, at least 5 out of those 8 races, and should definitely have some more victories. Your thoughts?
I think that Harvick right now, and of course it's way premature, but he's the poster boy for the new system because he's the only guy who's won twice, and yet he's not very high in the points. He's had a go or blow year. If you go enough, a blow isn't as difficult to overcome. As a matter of fact, it's nothing. You get in the chase. And so everybody always says we run the same every week. You know, we just go out there to win. But then, when the race is over, they say, boy, it sure was good that we didn't have to worry about points. Well, wait a minute, I thought you drove the same regardless. Well, that always comes into play. Harvick is really fast. And it's also, you know, Kurt Busch has a win, his teammate, and has also had a bunch of problems. But, you know, he's there. I mean, what do you do from now on? I think you probably keep on trying to win, but he's in the chase. So at some point this summer, the concentration has got to be on getting ready for the chase as much as getting ready to this next week. And I think that everybody, the teams, and all those of us who are watching, we all come to grips with how these things change. I mean, the fact is that the Stewart-Haas team has been the most successful in terms of wins. It has not been very consistent all the way across the board. Well, Danica Patrick has been consistent, but not in a good way. And so, you know, the times things are changing. The way that we define a good year is changing because consistency, if you can win races, is just kind of a luxury.
Let's talk Hendrick Motorsports. Of course, Jeff Gordon looks really good. Jimmy Johnson, yeah, Jimmy Johnson is right there. You know, everyone's saying, geez, what's going on with the 48 team? But
it's not, I mean, early in the race at Darlington, he wasn't very good, but that team responded like champions, like they always do. And you watch them, it's not like they haven't been fast. That's just, you know, these things happen from time to time. There was a Stewart guy in 2011 who didn't do anything all year, and then he won 5 of the 10 races in the chase. And that, by the way, is probably the most remarkable thing. Tony Stewart winning the 2011 championship is probably the most remarkable thing this season. That race between he and Edwards is probably the most memorable I've ever seen. And maybe that's because Kulwicki versus Bill Elliott and Davey Allison happened to be the last year before I covered races full time. So certainly that race in Atlanta that year might have been, in '92, might have been the most remarkable race. But there's a long way to go. And when you have a situation where the chase is all that matters, we can't really get too excited till we see who matters in the chase.
Let's talk about NASCAR. There's talk that they're going to take horsepower away from the Cup Series in 2015. And Ricky, you can jump in on this because you're a technical guy. First, we'll get Monty's thoughts, and then I'll get your thoughts, Rick.
Believe it. To me, they worked all year to fix things, and now everything's working beautifully. And I can't believe they're saying, well, we're going to take some horsepower away. We've made it better, but we're going to keep on making it. I suspect that this has to do with what manufacturers want. Maybe the manufacturers are saying we want V6 engines because we don't run V8s in our passenger cars. Or NASCAR's so-called green initiative. To me, this has to be sort of politics because I think they've turned things around and they've got a pretty good thing going right now, at least from what they want. It's not really what I want. Sports always wants excitement, and I want justice. You know, to me, my problem with the way it is now is that if the guy who deserves the championship wins it, it's an accident. And I just, you know, even if the best guy does, as I said, this thing is like a game show now. But see, they want excitement, and they're getting excitement, so I don't know why they tinker with it.
To me, it'd just be tough for them to, you know, just turn back the horsepower right now with the way everything is built because, like you said, something about the V6 engines. Well, how costly is that when everybody has the other motors?
It never works. Every time NASCAR does something, they say it's for cost control. Nobody ever saves a dime because by the time before anybody saves any money, they change everything again. And then the other thing is that they you know, you can tell, you can see the spin. You turn on MRN, you turn on the TV half-hour shows, and they say, well, I've been in a lot of races, but I don't think that you can tell the difference between 195 and 180. No, in the grandstands you can't. But I think behind the wheel you can. And I think going faster is harder than going slower. And I think one of the reasons that the Cup Series is better than Nationwide is because they have more power. And so I think if you reduce I just think that racing is about going fast. And if you make the cars not go as fast, then it takes some of the skill. As I said, you can't tell from the grandstands, but I do think if you're behind the wheel, you can tell.
Yeah, it's just one of them things that it's a very tough thing to damper down the power too, because it's not like you can put a restrictor plate on the cars when you go to these tracks, because then it turns into terrible racing.
Well, until the last 2 weeks, we've known that Kyle Busch wins almost every Nationwide he's in. If they make the Cup cars more like Nationwide, is he going to win every race in Cup? Be interesting to see.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Last question for you. Let's talk Roush Racing. Of course, Carl Edwards got a win back earlier in the season. But what's going on with the Cup program over there, Monty?
The Roush team is, and obviously they've lost the top spot with the Ford teams because Penske's performing better. I think the fact that, but I think the way I look at Roush Fenway right now is that there are certain places where they have as good a chance as anybody, but there are certain places where they're not that much of a factor. And so you know that Hendrick and Stewart-Haas and even Gibbs is off. You know, Gibbs cars aren't quite as fast this year, but all those people are going to be factors wherever you go. And there's some places where the Roush cars, and Darlington, I think was one of them, where the Roush cars seem to be, let's see, I was about to use a saying I shouldn't say on the radio. The Roush cars are just kind of like pulling things out to slip up to the end of the top 10 near the end of the race. They're playing it smart, but they're not really a factor to win at some tracks. And so I think their overall program is lacking. I don't think that's necessarily permanent, and I don't think they're far off, but I think they're just a little off now.
Okay. Hey, Monty, yeah, last question. Let's talk a little bit of baseball here. Now, I'm a Red Sox fan. Do the Red Sox, do they have what it takes like they did last year?
Too early to tell, obviously. They have a bunch of injuries, obviously. But I think that it's a challenge because they really did lose a very important factor when they lost Ellsbury, because his excitement on the bases, pressuring the opposition, takes the factor away that they don't have. My guess right now is that 91 wins is probably going to win the East, because I think every team in the East is capable of just grinding you to death. And I think that they all play 19 games in the division. And I don't really think anybody's going to run away. And I think some good teams aren't going to make the playoffs. But the Red Sox had an edge last year, and we'll just have to see what happens, you know. But, I mean, they have good people. Sizemore's been there, and Jackie Bradley is developing. But are those guys going to do what Ellsbury did to other teams, putting pressure on defense? No. So I think the Red Sox are going to be contenders, but I think it's kind of like I think it's kind of like flip a coin. I think that, you know, Toronto could surprise. I think I used to think Showalter was the worst over manager in the world. I've come to really like him. Tampa Bay, you know, I wish Joe Madden had managed the Red Sox at some time, but I mean, I think it's going to be a grinded out year, and the Yankees have all the luxury items, but they also have real weaknesses, and they have a pitching staff that the starters are really good, but I don't know whether they can hold it together. I think every team has questions, and it's going to be a real good race.
Yeah, but it all depends if all their pitchers could use a little bit of pine tar.
Well, it's kind of stunning to see. I'm not saying everybody says, well, everybody does it. Well, if they do, you know. But I remember when I was a kid watching Monday Night Baseball when I was in high school and watching a game where the Red Sox were playing the Orioles, and I thought I was the only guy in America who knew that Mo Jabowski was hocking big loogies down on the ball when it was sitting in front of him. And he was pitching for the Orioles, and I was watching on TV, and he was, you know, but then it's almost like, now that was slick stuff. I guess slick stuff's no good, but sticky stuff's all right. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not enough of an expert. I don't think I've thrown a baseball in 10 years, so I can't say, but it did sort of stand out, I have to say.
Certainly did, no question.
Buckholz too, so I don't think, I heard people say that the Red Sox with Buckholz on the mound are one to talk about the Yankees doctoring the ball. Well, the Red Sox didn't complain about it. It was everybody else that did. The fact that it showed up on TV, the Red Sox didn't go out and protest it. They might should have.
Monty, I always appreciate your time on Speedway Line Report Radio, and we'll catch up with you probably next month. You're very welcome. Monty Dutton, you can check out his blogs at montydutton.com. When we come back, we're going to talk to a young driver who's competing on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, young Jimmy Zacharias. He joins us next.
Market for a new Acura? There's only one place to go. Shaler Acura in Manchester. Shaler is Connecticut's first Acura dealer. Shaler offers the area's best selection of new and pre-owned Acuras. Shaler Acura also offers extended hours for parts and service. Open until
that one, when I saw the ball, it was like, okay, what's going on?
Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester, or visit them on the web
at
ShalerAcura.com.
So we're going to come back. Are we still on? Okay. In case we said anything bad. Sometimes, Ricky, over the years, if we had the YouTube ban like we've had the last 2 weeks, our off-air stuff is sometimes entertaining when we've had other people in the studio.
Well, especially when there's a guy in there named Bear.
Hey, he had a good run with Todd. Of course, crew chief and now on the 85 car. So that was good that they came home with a good solid finish. Yep. So all good.
Promotional items such as duffel bags, mugs, pens, letter openers, and magnets.
Papers rolling there, Mr. Graves.
That Logano man with Penske, he is killing it qualifying.
Oh yeah.
The Penske's are killing us, especially Logano.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. They got their game on for that.
Call Embroidery Works at 860-747-9802. That's 860-747-9802. Now at 333 East Street in Plainville. That's 333 East Street, Plainville for Embroidery Works. Visit them online at embroideryworksct.com. Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report. presented to you by Shaler Acura of
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in our Waterbury studio, right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication. The show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, J.M. Montesano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, and the Grotto Restaurant. So in just another minute or two, we're going to talk to Jimmy Zacharias. He will be driving the Bowler Racing Enterprise Old Blue number 3 in the NASCAR modified event at the Spring Sizzler coming up on April 27th over at Stafford Motor Speedway. And Rocket, Spring Sizzler, always a fun race.
Yeah, and if it's anything like Stafford normally is, it'll be a good weekend.
Right.
Because they usually get
Sure.
the luck of the draw normally, where it's a good weekend and it's just starting to warm up now. So they'll get the good crowds. They'll get a lot of cars, and I guess there's a real lot of cars on the roster to start there this year. A lot of guys moving up from the SK Light.
And which, of course, is a great division over at Stafford Motor Speedway. But they had an open practice on Saturday.
Yeah, they had an open practice, and I guess guys are actually going this week on Thursday to practice also.
Oh, over at Stafford?
Yeah, over at Stafford, some guys rented the track, so they're going there on Thursday to practice also, and then the week after that is going to be the big race at Stafford Speedway, and just like we talked to Membrino last week, because he moved up, so him and his brother are both going to, I say brother, but
His father?
you know,
Oh, his cousin?
yeah, his
Cousin Tommy?
Yeah, the cousins are going to be in there. But it's, I tell you, that SKs, there's going to be a lot of SKs there. You're going to be sending some cars home.
Good competition.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's bring into the show his first time ever on Speedway Line Report Radio. We appreciate his time. Jim Zacharias. Jimmy, how are you? I'm doing very well. Let's talk about how this whole deal came together, where you're going to get to drive the Bowler Racing Enterprise number 3 at Stafford in a couple of weeks. So is there a possibility we're going to see something beyond the Sizzler?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, if it comes my way, I'm committed to it. We're going to take it one race at a time and see how it goes from there.
So regardless, are you going to do the full deal on the NASCAR Wheel Modified Tour?
I believe you'll see us there. If everything doesn't work out with the 3 car, we still have our own car, and we're working on putting a deal together with some sponsors, maybe if we need to run the whole year.
And have you ever been to Bristol?
Ran there last year, my first time.
Yeah, that everybody that usually gets on the tour and goes to that track there can't wait to go back to Bristol Motor Speedway.
Well, I run a track back home that's a little similar to that, but not quite. Fast half-mile banks. I mean, it was awesome for me the first time there. We led pretty much about half the portion of the Southern Tour part and ended up second to Burt there and 10th overall.
And have you raced up at Loudon?
No, Loudon will be first for me this year.
And because that's the other big, you go from the half mile to the 1 mile, and the one mile track, everybody, it's just, they say when you're going down the backstretch, you really don't feel like you're going that fast until you get to the corner. Then you realize you are going that fast.
I'm looking forward to it. I've heard a lot about it, but I can't wait to try it firsthand.
We're talking with Jimmy Zacharias from Candor, New York. As I mentioned, he's going to drive the Bowler Racing Enterprise in a couple of weeks over at the Spring Sizzler at Stafford Motor Speedway. And give us a snapshot of your racing career, how it all got started for you, Jimmy.
Basically, I was born into a racing family. My grandfather started racing in the 50s, and then it just carried on through all my uncles and my dad. And then I started racing when I was like 5 years old in microds, and then moved into full-size cars when I was 12 years old.
And now back home, you race at, what is it, Chemung?
Chemung Speedrome, and then I raced all over from Mahoney Valley, Mountain Speedways, Lancaster, Holland, Spencer Speedway.
Is there a favorite racetrack that you have?
Probably after being at Bristol last year, I'd have to say that was pretty much my favorite.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, ran pretty well there. And Ricky, I mean, some people, I mean, run very well at Bristol, and there's still some drivers trying to get a handle on that.
Yeah, it's a tough track, and it's something with the rubber. You got to get that rubber down on the track. That's like for practice. Everybody does not want to be the first 3 or 4 cars out on that racetrack for practice because there's no rubber down. So it's just one of them things where you got to get the rubber down and everything else, and then once you get the rubber down on that track, a lot of the drivers really seem to like that track there.
Jimmy, who works hand in hand with you on your race cars? I mean, talk a little bit about your team members and even some sponsors that you have on your race cars.
Basically, my car owners are my mom and dad and my grandfather. They've owned my cars ever since I started racing. I work hand in hand daily with my dad and my brother. Every day of the week, we work on race cars at our local business, the used car lot and mechanic shop. And then I got a couple more that show up to help: Matt Clemens, Steve Tito, Bob Wilson. And then there's some more people that just show up once in a while to help whenever they can. And then main sponsors this year, I picked up a couple of good ones. I got Central State Juice Clothing, Boy Juice Clothing, Tito Juice, and then when I was down here in Florida for Speedways, I picked up JB's Fish Camp.
And what kind of motors do you have for your car?
Me and my dad just purchased a fresh Pernod motor the end of last year. That's what we ran there at New Smyrna and Daytona and then Thompson. But Mike Pettit out of Connecticut, Pettit Race Engine, usually builds my motors too.
And what type of chassis do you run?
Sawyer chassis.
I just like to get it out there so everybody knows it. I know it is, but I just like to get everybody out there just to say what you got going on. That's all.
We're talking with Jimmy Zacharias from Candor, New York. I'm Gary Danker, right alongside my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo. Phone lines are open at 203-757-1320. Didn't mean to cut you off, Jimmy. Were you going to say something? Let's talk about what it would be like to win the Spring Sizzler for the Bowler family.
I mean, I'd imagine it'd be pretty big for them. I know they won it back in '72 with Fred DeCero there, then Jerry Marquise in '04 again. But I think that's their only 2 Spring Sizzler wins. So, excuse me, but if I was to get the victory lane with them, that'd be a huge accomplishment, not only for me but the whole team. I mean, first time hand in hand working together for the new team here. For our victory lane, that'd be a huge accomplishment.
Obviously you'd like to get to victory lane this year, but let's talk about some other goals competing in the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. What will at the end of the 2014 season on the Wheel and Modified Tour, what would make you happy?
Probably rookie of the year and top 10 in championship points. We got a decent start there after Thompson. We had a little bit of problems and ended up 10th in the final rundown, but we were a little bit better. And just keep the wheels on her all year and run consistent.
Now, have you ever run the Riverhead Raceway?
Yeah, I ran there 3 times last year in my when I was chasing the New York State Championship that I won last year. I hit every New York State track, and that was one of them I hit 3 times.
Now, when you were a young kid watching racing wherever you went to watch the races, was there somebody? I know you had some family members that raced as well, but were there some drivers that you really looked up to and said, someday I'd like to be like them?
When I was growing up, my family had some drivers: Chuck Osfeld and Eric Beers. Timmy Ayers drove for my family. I was around them when they drove, and then John Blewett, of course. Growing up, I got to watch him some. But those 4 mainly right there is who I grew up around running my family's car, and then John, obviously, just watching him wherever we went to a race he was at.
Jimmy, are you a hands-on guy? You in the shop, working with your crew members? You're hands-on working on that race car?
Yeah, absolutely. I do most of my own setups now. I maintain the cars, and me and my brother and my dad, that's all we do every day on the side.
We're talking with Jimmy Zacharias from Candor, New York. He's going to drive the Bowler Racing Enterprise. The next event for the NASCAR Wheel Modified Tour will be the Spring Sizzler coming up on April 27th, and you're going to see Jimmy driving that familiar blue number 3. Phone lines are open at 203-757-1320. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, we're going to talk to George Brunholzl III, who picked up a victory this past weekend at Langley Speedway on the NASCAR Southern Wheel and Modified Tour. And then later on in the show, we're going to talk to a driver that sat in victory lane in 3 different divisions over at the Waterford Speed Bowl, and he won in all 3 of those divisions, a late model division, an SK Modified, and the Valente Modified Racing Series. Keith Rocco. Back on with Jimmy. Rick.
Yeah, it's going to be good to see the 3-car out there, and he's going to be driving it, and hopefully all the best for you guys. Can work out a deal for the whole year and stuff like that, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Getting back to the other track that you race at Chemung. Describe that racetrack for someone that's never been there.
Small 3, it's oval banking. I mean, consistency is the key there. A lot of people show up thinking they got to drive it hard, and I usually win because I'm just slow and steady. I mean, they can pull me down the straightaways, but I'll beat them off the next corner.
Okay. Rick?
Yeah, well, I've been to Chemung, and it's just like you said, it's a bank little track, and it's just all about the finesse of the driver. It really comes down to a driver thing at that racetrack, where it's throttle control really will win you the race.
And did I see at Mahoning Valley this past weekend, Eric Beers picked up the victory? Jimmy?
I believe he won there. Yeah, he did. I wasn't there that past weekend there.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for being a part of Speedway Line Report Radio tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the Spring Sizzler coming up at Stafford Motor Speedway on April 27th, and wish you and your race teams all the best in 2014. You're very welcome. Jimmy Zacharias joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio, and he was right on the money. Of course, in 1972 it was Fred DeCero that won the Spring Sizzler, and then Jerry Marquis won it back in 2004, and we all know the drivers over the years that have run that car, even going back to Doug Hevron when he drove the Bowler number 3. Mike McLaughlin drove the number 3, and the list goes on and on. Wright Hirschman won and won championships.
You have to say Tony now.
That's right, Tony, that's right. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of drivers very successful driving the Bowler number 3. Let's go back to Ronnie in Kenny Bouchard.
Yeah.
A lot of good, as I mentioned, a lot of good drivers. We're going to take a commercial break, and then Ricky and I will talk some racing to the top of the hour. Then we'll break for national news. Then we're going to talk to a gentleman that sat in Victory Lane at Langley Speedway, George Brunholzl III. All that and much more on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. We're back right after this.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura in Manchester. Visit Connecticut's first Acura dealer and find out why Shaler Acura is the 14-time Acura Precision Team Dealer of Distinction Award winner. Awarded by Acura for outstanding sales and service. At Shaler, their low-pressure, courteous sales staff makes owning a new or certified pre-owned Acura easy.
Hey, come back to your car, your choice. Auto Body Association of Connecticut. Yeah.
Okay. Until 8 p.m. and Saturdays until 4 p.m. for your convenience. And now got the same award-winning service on
Oh,
visit their state.
mics are out, videos are out. Hey, why don't you, tell you what, why don't you swing over here, and while we got a little time, we'll bring you back in and we'll do a little something with you.
Bring over there?
Do you want to, or you, yeah, whatever you want to do, you know what?
647-7077. Nowhere else but Shaler Acura, Manchester.
Can you get the cat? Well,
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
welcome back, everyone. The show is also being brought to you by Jim's Lawn Care Service. Jim's Lawn Care Service is based out of Cheshire, Connecticut. So it's that time of the year for spring cleanup, and he has all the equipment to do your job and do it right. So why don't you give Jim's Lawn Care Service a call today at 203-272-2054, and I'm sure he was on hand over at the Waterford Speed Bowl for all of that great racing action, Ricky.
Yeah, I know for sure he was going down there this weekend there, and he dropped off some of my pamphlets to my shop about his lawn care service this past week.
Oh, he's got pamphlets made up now too and everything.
Yep.
Great.
So, yeah, well, I know he was down for a race. I didn't get his recap yet, so I haven't seen him, but he'll be around.
Yeah, I'm sure that will be interesting. Of course, been around racing a long time, and Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire, 3-272-2054 when it comes to maintenance and lawn care. And the show is also being brought to you by J.M. Montesano Auto Body Works, specialists in auto collision. All work is guaranteed. They're located at 390 Lombard Street in New Haven, Connecticut. You can give them a call at 203-865-1389 for J.M. Montesano Auto Body Works. Once again, specialist in auto collision, and Ricky, all of their work is guaranteed. Now, Robert Baggett, we got a couple of minutes before we break for national news. He is the YouTube guy. He's been around racing for a long, long time. He raced himself. He raced modifieds. He raced legend cars. And, of course, when you see on Facebook the YouTube guy, that's Robert Baggett. So we're going to bring him in and find out a little bit more about him till we break up for national news. So come on over, Robert, and find out a little bit, and we're going to bring you back on next week as well. So let's talk a little bit about when did it all start for you in racing?
We started with Johnny Georgitis back in 1972, and then the following year we built our own car.
Modified?
Modified, yes,
Mhm.
and then we ran Riverside Park until 1976, when they went NASCAR, and then we went to Waterford Speedball.
Mm-hmm.
And we continued there until like 1988, and then that's when I decided to
Car was number,
retire.
what, 55? It was a
55,
Pinto?
yes. Pinto, yes. And then one year we painted it a dark blue, which was the first time we ever painted a car dark blue, and that car had more body damage than I ever seen in my life. Nobody could see the car if you were parked on the side. So we went back to white after that.
Now, you, as I mentioned, you've been around auto racing for a long, long time. How have you seen short track racing change?
Mostly the fields are much smaller now than they were. When we started at Riverside Park, there was, you had 65 cars at night, and 40 of them would go home with tow money, and the racing was much better back then.
Why do you think?
Well, people used to come from the back, and you don't see that so much anymore. The people like Billy Greco used to come from the back
Sure.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really see that now. Most people started up in the first 5 rows.
Yeah, going back, you mentioned running Riverside 1976. I mean, Jack Lucas,
Yeah.
Bob Stefanik, Bob Pulverary. Reggie came there in 76. Later in the year, in the Mario Fiore Chevette, and picked up some wins that year as well. And you're right. People would start at the rear of the field and work their way toward the front. Pete Fiandaca on the 135.
Yeah, 135. Yes.
Remember that car?
Yeah, I do. I remember that car. I used to go to races even though I was a little kid because
Right.
John used to race.
Yeah, John Anderson, your uncle. Yep.
Yeah, he used to race at 11 CT with a small block. So
With the Astro body.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember it. And I know they at one point on that 11 car they used to have Pulverary used to have the Chevy under glass, and they had some type of it was on the hood. It was I want to say plexiglass too. I have to dig up some pictures of that.
I think I got some pictures of it at my house. I think my parents, they got some pictures of that back in the day.
Yeah, always a gorgeous car.
Yeah, he always wanted to look good.
Oh yeah, and that car ran well too.
Yeah, and like I said, he mainly ran the small block most of the time.
Right.
Which he used to get the bonus because he used to win that and get the bonus and still finish up toward the front.
Exactly. What was your best finish ever, Robert?
Well, we finished third one night down at Waterford. It was a big race, and I remember we got torn down, and it was like about 1:30 in the morning. We had to hit they used to pay you at the shack, and so we won like $800, and I remember getting paid in $10 bills. And good thing we didn't get there an hour later. It would have been quarters.
We got a break for national news here in about another minute, but really quick, and we'll find out more from you next week. How did you become the YouTube guy?
Well, I just started to videotape because my nephew was getting married, and I wanted to practice before the wedding, so I started practicing at Stafford. And then when he got married, I said, "Geez, I got a camera; it's going to just collect dust." So I decided to do the videos every week.
Okay, we'll find out more from you next week. So in about 30 seconds, national news, and then we're going to talk to George Bornholzl III, talk about his victory this past Saturday night over at Langley Speedway on the NASCAR Southern Wheeler Modified Tour. And then we're going to talk to Keith Rocco, scheduled to join us coming up just about 7:17 here on Speedway Line Report Radio. So we'll break for national news, and then when we come back, we'll take your phone calls at 203-757-1320. You're listening to Speedway Line Report on WATR 1320 AM, and you can check us out at speedwaylinereport.com.
Your radio station for news, talk, and entertainment. 1320 AM WATR.
Mike, videos are hot. Video hot.
Yeah, still hot. In a Kansas City suburb. Fraser Glenn Cross allegedly targeted Jews.
Yeah.
All three of the victims killed.
What's funny is if you really,
Dr. William Corcoran and
if
his
you really look
grandson
at the
were
stuff,
gunned
and,
down
I look
outside
at
of
the
the
cars and
Overland
stuff,
Park Jewish Community
it's
Center.
amazing people lived after they got into accidents.
Oh, you're right.
God.
And no brakes. I never
Okay,
heard-
Tom, when we
never
come
heard
back,
using brakes to turn cars.
from news, so we'll do
The world of difference. in
the
cars
audio
over the years.
from
It's
David Calabrese, who was third, Andy
Yeah,
Seiss,
it's
who
one of
was
the things from
second,
the 60s,
and
early
then
70s, it wasn't a huge
we're gonna have
deal
George
difference.
Bornholzl,
But then when they got to
the
the
winner,
80s, they started
which
building
we'll
the
have him on.
chassis.
When do
It
you
was
want
all
me
the
to call
guys that
George?
did their homework that was all the
Let's
way
come
up
back.
front all the time.
We'll come back.
Richie Evans.
Get everything all reset,
Him and his crew
and
were smarter than
then,
everybody else.
uh,
You know, when
Or
they
do you want me to
changed
call?
why don't you
As
call
far
him
as-
and already have him on the line?
That's what I said, I mean, unless
But
I
now,
call him
the
right now, and
technology's
then
all
we'll
caught
have
up
him
to
on the
where
line for
it's like
7:05.
you go to
And
Stafford.
it's
Why
about
don't you do
4
that? Call
minutes
him,
away.
yeah, why don't you get him on now?
Yeah.
And then, once we come
And
back,
it's like, even
then
in
you can
the
just go
late
in your
90s,
Right.
get the sound, and
Yeah.
then
In
come
the late
back.
90s, we went back racing
Sounds
with
good.
John, and
Alright.
when I got into racing in like 93, in like 93 and to the late 90s, it was still like a 10, 12 car field, and then the rest of everybody else. That's the way it was. And I mean, that's like one night, Johnny got there late from Texas, had to start dead last. And by lap, I think 13 out of 28 cars, at lap 13, he was in 11th place, catching up to the guys to start past them now. You know, he ended up winning the race. He passed everybody. And that was with no caution. No cautions. He buzzed through, 18 cars in like 11 laps or something ridiculous like that. He passed 18 cars. Because they were just looking for an opening. And then once he got in front of them, he had to reel down the top guy because they were gone.
His phone must be off because it doesn't hurt. It rings
Well,
like a
it's,
quarter of a second and it goes
now
right to his
it's-
voicemail.
everybody's so
Like he has the
tight.
phone off.
All right,
We went to
did
Stafford. We
you
never
dial
had
the
a
second
driver.
number?
There's only
Dial
one-
the second number, there's two. There's another one under there, yeah.
Yep.
And we didn't have a driver, so John was not even taking the car off. Qualify his and eventually qualify us and go back to his car.
They let you do that back then?
Yeah, yeah, and then, says to I got a friend that'll drive the car for him. Walk down Kenny Meisenhower. So he drove that one year at Riverside Park, and then when they went NASCAR, I just couldn't afford another 65.
Then you went legend racing, right?
Yes, we went legend racing, yeah, we won 7 races.
Yeah, that was what, like 2004?
Yeah, 2000, yeah.
Because I was announcing at the bowl then.
Yeah, we won that one really, well, we won that national race
Yep.
where Jarvis
Yeah.
had that little tussle with
Yeah, I remember that.
with Palmer and put him out on the last lap, and
Yeah.
then I see over there, I was filming, and I see the thing over there, and all of a sudden 55 comes up as the winner. We were in third, Well, we almost won a national one other time, and we had Jags driving, and we led almost every lap, we got the fast time, and then blew the motor with like 10 laps to go, ended up fifth.
NSA leaker Edward Snowden now in Russia granted
Actually, we
temporary
ran
asylum there.
down here with
Concerned that after 38
motor that
days
we
the
built.
black box batteries have died and still no
What
trace
made
of
you
that
get out of
missing
it?
Malaysian Airlines jet. The
started
U.S.
getting
Transportation Department,
So,
meantime,
now did you ever run against Daryl?
a new high-tech
Oh, yeah.
tracking system
Okay.
here. It's called the Automatic
Did you ever do a tag team racing at
Broadcast
Riverside?
Radio Network.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, actually, you know
Riverside
what?
500.
that lets a
The the first,
That's a lot of those. Remember, I was about over.
Yeah, the Johnny paired up with somebody.
Check that tape, Tom.
Yeah, I just started on this.
Paired up with somebody, and they went out there, and they went down 5 laps or 6 laps.
Stefanik, wasn't it? Was it Bob Stefanik? Or was it Fiendaka?
Vandaka, that's who it was.
Yeah.
They went down like 5 or 6 laps right off the gate because something happened to the car. They went back out there, and between Vandaka and Johnny, they
15
made up like
seconds.
4 laps. You know, and then at the end they announced the winner. He's like, "Are you sure I won?" He goes, "Some other guy just passed me like 3 times."
yeah, we were teamed up with a kid named Eddie Funky.
Oh yeah.
Young kid.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in our Waterbury studio at WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com. And you can also catch us live or in a rebroadcast by going to speedwaylandreport.com. Former modified driver Tom Ormsby, whose health is getting a little bit better day by day, which we're very happy for that. He's done a lot for us here on Speedway Line Report Radio, and we appreciate all of his help. He is the webmaster of SpeedwayLineReport.com, and this is where you can catch our show in a rebroadcast. Right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication, and so far, Rocket, we've heard from Monty Dutton, we've heard from Jimmy Zacharias, and now we're about to hear from a gentleman that knows how to win races. He knows how to win championships. On the NASCAR Southern Wheel and Modified Tour, he put his car into victory lane on Saturday evening at Langley Speedway, George Brunholzl III. So he's all set to go. Actually, he's on the line right now. But, you know, it was a great run for some other competitors. David Calabrese, he came home third, and here's what he told the fans on Saturday night. And actually, yeah, that was Andy Saiso who came home in second. Now, David Calabrese, who finished third. Here's what he had to say. Okay, that was David Calabrese who finished third. Good, strong run for him. And Rocket, one of our guests last week here on Speedway Line Report Radio, Ryan Priest, he would pick up the pole. When it was all said and done, he would come home with a 5th place finish. And now we can kind of yell at Tom now because he finally things didn't go the way that we wanted them to.
He lapped himself over there.
So. First time, though. You know, toward the end of last year, he did so well. And tonight, of course, Tom Graves, he's he runs the board here. And
there's no technical problems. There was nothing like that. So.
Well, you kind of reversed. Third was David Calabrese, then second Andy Saiz, but it's over Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's over and done with. But now we're going to talk to the gentleman that sat in victory lane on Saturday night, George Brunholzl III. Now joins us. George, good evening. You're very welcome. Let's talk about your victory Saturday night at Langley Speedway.
It was really a great weekend. I mean, everything just kind of fell into place, and we had an amazing car.
And did you know as soon as you unloaded, you knew that, hey, we have a car that can get the victory lane?
Yeah, we unloaded on older tires and knew right from that point we were going to concentrate just on race runs, and qualifying is very important, but you got to ultimately have the best car at the end of the race. So we concentrated the whole time on race runs, and the guys did great, made great adjustments for me. We were shorthanded. My dad wasn't able to be there, and he's the crew chief, so it made it a little challenging. We were on the phone quite a bit back and forth during practice, but the guys did great and came home with a victory.
Yeah, George, you've been running real good this year, and it's just an extension of what you've been doing down there. And I just want to go over again. I know I ask this just about every time we have you on there, but the sponsors that you have for your car.
Composite Technologies, Mr. Bill Higby, he's been a long-time supporter of mine. Performance Technology, Jim Michaels, they provide amazing horsepower and reliability. My Uncle Dennis from Mobile Speed Unlimited, anybody out there needs race car parts, late models, modifieds, whatever, he's got it in stock. Without the help of those guys, we wouldn't be there. And then you put a great team and crew like we got behind it, and we've been very successful.
I didn't know your uncle was Dennis from Mobile Speed.
Yeah, that's my uncle. He supports me on and off the track. He's a great uncle.
Yeah, he's got a lot of parts down there. I get some stuff from him every once in a while. I didn't know you were related. And what type of chassis do you run?
Troy race cars.
Okay, that's good. I like to get it out there that way everybody gets their little tidbits out there, because it's a lot with all the sponsors and the way things are now. Every little bit helps out.
And I appreciate the fact that you guys realize that and let us thank the guys that make it possible for us to do what we do.
And of course, there's other chassis manufacturers out there as well. As George just mentioned, he runs a Troyer car, and of course you've got Raceworks with Reggie and Eddie, and then of course you've got Chassis Dynamics with Mike Paquette and his staff, and of course Spafco, Art Berry and Ken Berry, and I know there's a couple other ones as well.
Which Justin Bond Sr. won.
Right.
Last week, and that was his new Spafco car.
Yeah, the Wheeler Modified Torrey Thompson.
Yep.
Right. Back on with George Brunholzl III. And George, what's the key of getting around Langley Speedway? I've never been there. Ricky, have you ever been there?
No, I haven't.
So what's the key? What type of a setup do you need in that race car on a particular night?
It's actually really strange that we had struggled at Langley Speedway for, I want to say we ran it 3 or 4 times before they repaved it, and I struggled. And they repaved it 2 years ago, and ever since then, for me, it's the best thing they ever did. We have a very good car there now. That track is more or less, you drive it like it's a circle. You're down the back stretch, you arc in it the whole way, you're never straight. Down the front stretch, you straighten up for a little bit, but more or less, it's a circle. So the key there that we've always been trying to work on, and we got it right this time, was just keeping the car turning. It's you're turning all the time, so that just makes it that much more important. Where you go to another racetrack, yeah, you got to turn, obviously, but there, you're turning the entire lap, so you got to put a lot of emphasis on getting the car to turn.
George, refresh my memory. Were you a part of the battle at the beach?
No, we did not go down.
Any reason why?
We, as a company, Brunholzl Racing, we do all the pit equipment, not all, but a lot of the pit equipment for the 3 main series, and then a lot of Saturday night racers as well. And the months from November through March are our busy time here as a business, so gotta definitely do that first. That takes #1 priority, so we just didn't have time to work on the car.
Okay, and I'm sure you got a chance to watch it. What was your take on it?
Yeah, we were actually down there for business at the big track, so we got to go out there on Tuesday and check that out. It was definitely an improvement from the first year with the where I believe they shortened the track a little bit. So I think that was definitely an improvement. It was great to see some of the Southern guys running the top 5. Chase Myers coming home second. That was pretty cool.
Now let's talk about the competition on the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Tour. Of course, Andy Seiss, you've got Bertuccio this year. Andy's already got 2 victories. Bertuccio has a win. You now have a win. And Danny Bone, he's been running pretty well as well.
Yeah, the Southern Tour is definitely getting harder and harder each year as far as competition goes. There's more and more guys that are very, very good and capable of winning at any given race. So it's good. It shows growth in the series, which everybody is hoping for. And at the same respect, it makes it harder to win these races when you got 6 or 7 guys out there capable of doing it.
And what is it going to take to pick up a championship in 2014? You're already a 4-time champion. It's the drive for 5. So what's it going to take to get that 5th?
Like in years past, the championship is going to be decided on Caraway. You run there so often that you got to make sure you have a good setup and good finishes there. So we're still really early in the season, and we want to concentrate on winning some more races and then letting the points fall where they fall.
Any chance that we're going to get a chance to see you this coming year, come up maybe to Thompson or Stafford?
Actually contemplating going up to Stafford for the Sizzler, which the next couple of weeks are pretty busy for us. We're running Caraway this weekend, and then we were lucky enough to get invited to the Denny Hamlin Foundation race next Thursday, so we're going to do that. And then depending on if we go or not, the Sizzler would be that weekend. So that's the plan potentially as of right now. So we're just going to play it by ear.
Okay. Well, we wanted to bring you on and congratulate you on your victory this past weekend at Langley Speedway. And as you mentioned, the next stop is coming up at Caraway. And how would you describe that racetrack, George?
Caraway is a fun racetrack. It's I call it a textbook oval. You got 2 straightaways in the corners. It's a very heartbreaking track, so it's a fun place. You could definitely run side by side. The Hackett's do a great job in promoting it and keeping it up to date. So we're looking to put on a good show.
Hey, what's your thoughts now for fans that maybe can't get out to their local short track? You got that Fan Choice TV.
I personally myself, I love it. I watched it a couple weeks ago for the Icebreaker at Thompson that Sunday. I sat home on my couch and had my daughter's iPad out actually and watched it on that. And I think it's great. It just gets modified racing out there to a lot more people that can't be at the racetrack.
Okay. Well, George, thank you for your time tonight on Speedway Line Report Radio. I'm sure we're going to get you back on some more shows in 2014. And once again, good luck in the remainder of your 2014 racing season. You're very welcome. George Bornholzel III joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. We'll take a commercial break, and we're going to talk to a driver that got to victory lane in 3 different divisions at the same racetrack. Keith Rocco joins us next.
Come to Shaler Acura and test drive the all-new redesigned RDX Sport Utility, built for the size of your life. The all-new RDX reflects a new kind of luxury that values the resourceful, an engine that's powerful yet efficient, technology that optimizes your time, a design that puts excellence.
See, you learned something new tonight at his cousin.
I didn't know that was
and test drive this exciting all-new SUV.
I know he said oval speed before, right?
ShalerAcura.com. Shaler Acura, 345 Center Street, Manchester. Exit 60 off I-84.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura in Manchester will you find the area's best selection of quality pre-owned certified Acura automobiles.
Doing good on time. Because I figured I wanted to take. How long did we have Bornholzel for? About
wasn't that long.
12 minutes.
Maybe even less than that.
100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Check out the complete.
I mean, you'll be able to give Keith about 10.
Center Street, Manchester. Exit 60 off I-84. Nowhere else will you find
just about.
pre-owned Acura easy.
No, longer than that.
Shaler Acura.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in the Waterbury studio at WATR 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com. You can also catch us at SpeedwayLineReport.com. Right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo. In just a moment, we're going to talk to Keith Rocco about his victories at the Waterford Speed Bowl over this past weekend. This show is also being brought to you by the Grotto Restaurant, serving fine Italian food, whether it's eat-in or take-out. They're located at 634 Watertown Avenue in Waterbury, Connecticut, only 2 minutes from the I-84 Route 8 interchange. Home-style pasta and sauces, it's the Grotto Restaurant. Once again, if you've never had the chance to dine out at the Grotto Restaurant, I encourage you to stop in. We know Billy Barry Calicio loves the Grotto Restaurant.
Oh yeah, there ain't no doubt about it, especially when he hears that F word.
That's right. And so once again, stop in at the Grotto Restaurant. They're closed Sunday and Monday. Closed Sunday and Monday. Once again, they're located at 634 Watertown Avenue in Waterbury, Connecticut. Check out the Grotto Restaurant. Tell them that you heard their name right here on Speedway Line Report Radio. So Keith Rocco is all good to go here tonight. And let's now bring him into the show. Keith, good evening and welcome to the show. You're very welcome. Congratulations 3 times. Your victory in the late model division, your victory in the SK Modified, and your victory in the Volante Modified Racing Series. Take us through your day.
It was a busy weekend. I mean, 3 cars to load up, 3 cars to take through a check. I mean, numerous sets of, the same amount of tires we had to size up. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on. I don't think there's many teams that could pull off what we pulled off this weekend.
Talk a little bit about, now we know Scott Fern owns your late model car. Talk about your SK Modified, sponsors and owners on that car, and talk about your Volante Modified Racing Series car.
I mean, let's start off with Scott Fern. I mean, Scott's one of the best car owners you can ask for. Not only do you have fun, but you laugh and joke the whole time you're together. He's great to drive for, a lot of fun. Junior Woods is the crew chief on that car, and we just we have a lot of success with that car. And my SK, we got Mr. Reuter aboard this year. He's a great part of our team, and things have been running really smooth over there. We got a first and a second out of the first 2 races, and looking forward to a great season with him. We got John and Maynard Rafano. I mean, they're absolutely awesome. John never cuts any corners. He gives me everything possible. If there's something that I need for that MLS car, the Tour car, or the SK, there's no holding back. Until we get whatever you need and make it work. So, really enjoy driving for them and really get to showcase some of my talent on the Volante Modified Series.
Sure.
And Keith, we were talking earlier about I guess people are, I didn't look on the internet, I don't look too much on there, but they're bashing, oh, Keith wins this, oh, he must be cheating this and this, that, and the other thing. And, I've said this before on the radio, and, I talked to you about it, and sometimes they ought to do what Teddy did back with Sean Corshane when he followed him around for a week. They ought to have somebody follow you around for a week to see how much work that you do with these cars.
You're right, Rick.
Nobody really understands the amount of work and effort that this kid puts into what he's doing. And it's not just his team. All his guys help him.
Sure.
But he's there. He's there and he's working on the stuff. I mean, that's like, we work I work on a lot of different cars and things like that too. But, I mean, the kid's got great work ethic. And he just is constantly working on these cars to get them right. He makes sure these things are right every time.
And Keith, I'm sure, the comments here and there, if they're negative, it doesn't bother you, right?
Oh, it just drives me up. It drives me harder,
Yep.
I get an absolute kick out of all the comments, and, you go on there and read it, and you just laugh, and,
sure.
Me and Doug DePease have been going on at Twitter a little bit, and, it really gives the fans something to look at and laugh at, and, Doug works real hard on his stuff, and, it's kind of funny to sit back and laugh at it at the end of the day, but it's great to have people stick up for you. Mark Payne, actually, I talked to him this morning. He called to congratulate me, and he told, I don't want to say who it was, but he got into it with somebody at the racetrack, saying, Keith wins all these races because he gets all the good motors, they freshen their motors every 2 years, and he had to explain to the guy that, when I drove for Mark, we went one season, I think the last year we ran together and won the championship. We ran all year on the same motor and never even took it out of the car. I think we might have took the heads off 1 week after tech. They tech heads, I think we took the heads off and had to go through them and freshen them up and put new springs and stuff. But, to have somebody like that stick up for you and say, Keith runs more laps than anybody, he lives, sleeps, breathes, and eats racing. That's all he does is work on them cars. That's his life, and it's great when people stick up for you like that. But, it's just, it's tough in the sport. You got to have people support you, not only, your crew, but to have my wife support me all the time and follow me 3 nights a week and also now with my son in the picture, she takes great care of him, and he actually he's got his picture taken a lot in the last 2 weeks.
Sure.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. It really helps to have who you have for a wife and where she's come from, to be part of that racing deal. She knows racing, as Todd Cervolo's her father. So she knows the whole game. She knows the whole deal. And, I mean, that's just, that's a pairing that, would definitely go together.
Ricky, I mean, it's a big part of this. I mean, there's not many women in racing that are like her, that come from a racing family. And, things have changed a lot since me and her, started dating. I mean, just things between me and her father. I mean, we went from, brawling all the time and having our battles on the racetrack to, this past weekend, parking next to each other, sharing tools, whatever we need, me helping him out, him helping me out. It's a really great thing because, after years have passed, you look back at it and you just realize how good things really are.
Keith, going into the weekend knowing that you were going to be competing in 3 divisions, did it cross your mind that, geez, I could win 3 races when it's all said and done?
To be honest with you, never once did it cross my mind. I mean, it's a lot on the plate, that's the last thing you look at, you're trying to load cars up, you're trying to get tires ready, you're trying to, realistically we got one big team and, you split everybody up and you really realize how big your team is because, you send 2 guys here, 2 guys there, you got 2 guys in tech, you got 1 guy doing tires on the MRS car. I mean, it's tough. But to make it all happen, I mean, it's pretty huge accomplishment, but I got out of the SK and had a little bit of time just to get settled down and get in the late model, and I got out of the late model and jumped right in the MRS car, and you don't even really have time to think of once you're rolling out on the track, you're thinking, oh, I hope I made the right adjustments, I hope I did this, I hope I did that, but never did it cross my mind I'd be able to win all 3.
In the Modified Racing Series, of course, Keith Rocco, the winner, and coming home in second, Chris Pastrak. Third was Todd Zegety. Good, strong run for him with the 85 team. And your brother, Jeff, he had a good, strong run. He came home 4th.
He don't have the seat time I have, and he don't have the experience I have. But he's doing a heck of a job, and he's getting to the point where he's finishing races. And when you start finishing races up front, it makes his job easier in the shop. So I'm happy for them guys.
And of course, a shout out for Max Zackham. He came home with a 5th place finish. Keith, let's talk about the Denny Hamlin event that's going to be coming up. Now, Scott Fern was on last week. Of course, the gentleman that owns your late model. And he kind of told us that there was a possibility you could be a part of that. Is that still a go?
Out here in the next week or so. I mean, when I sit back and think about it, if we leave Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, whatever, I mean, realistically, by the time I leave, I got to have the Stafford SK ready. I got to have the Waterford SK ready, I got to have the Waterford late model ready, and I have to have the tour car ready. And as of right now, there's still a ton of work to do to the Stafford car, and we're gonna have to try to pull some strings and make it happen. But we're gonna try to do it. I don't know if I don't want to say we're definitely gonna be there because I don't want to make any promises right now.
Sure. All right, well, Keith, thanks for being a part of Speedway Line Report Radio. Wanted to get you on to congratulate you on your 3 victories this past weekend at Waterford Speed Bowl. Certainly a great accomplishment, not only for you, but for your race teams. You're very welcome. Keith Rocco joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. Speedway Line Report Radio is presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut, and also being brought to you by Embroider Works, J.M. Montesano, Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant,
And your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
I want to thank all of my guests tonight. Monty Dutton, we talked to Jimmy Zacharias, we talked to George Brunholzl III, and we just got off the line with Keith Rocco. So for Tom Graves, Ricky Rotundo, the YouTube man Robert Baggett, and Tom Ormsby in LaCanta, Florida, I'm Gary Danko. We'll talk to you next Monday night at 6 o'clock.
Seating has been a GMD production. Don't forget to listen to Gary next Monday night for more auto racing news on the Speedway Line Report. And in case you didn't catch the entire program tonight,
We were running
check the
short, so I didn't
archive
bother
shows
asking them
at
about Troyer cars and better
speedwaylinereport.com.
motors.
What's that?
I said we were running a little tight, so I didn't ask them about the Troyer cars and better motors.